Hey guys, good to be back with you again. We're dealing with the issues of what it means to look like, or what it looks like to be a servant of God. And we're looking for little catchy cliches maybe, just to help hang this thing on. I want to suggest to you today that servants are not afraid to frame the famous. Now I know there's nobody more famous than Jesus, and he stands center stage. But around the picture of Jesus, there are some great people out there. There are some great examples of what servants look like. There's some great people that God has really used in the past. There's some great people that we can look at and say, man, I want to emulate that person, or I want to imitate that person as they imitate Christ. Paul says to people, he says, imitate me. Now, he's not Jesus, he's Paul, but he says, imitate me as I imitate him. And I look around me in the course of my life, and I've seen some people, I'm saying, man, I need to imitate that guy. That guy has just really been such a blessing to me. And if I had a hall of fame or a wall of fame, there'd be a whole bunch of faces out there that would be on that wall. I think of some of the great heroes of our faith. Think of the Billy Grahams and the Tony Campolos who recently passed away, and the people who may not have been perfect, but man, they made an impact on my life over the course of time. And I'm so grateful for the likes of these great men and great women of faith. Put a frame around them. Put them on a wall so that you walk past them every day and say, hey, there's my hero. There's somebody I want to be like. Frame the famous. Now I have a sort of a biblical example of this, that even Jesus did this. In Mark chapter 6, we see how John the Baptist, it was said of John the Baptist by Jesus that no one has been born of woman that is greater than this man. He's right there in the frame. I can see him. I can see John the Baptist, says Jesus, he is my man. And when John the Baptist was beheaded and Jesus heard the news, he grieved. Now Jesus knew where John the Baptist was. He knew he had been swept into the kingdom of heaven, and he knew that John the Baptist wasn't dead, but he still grieved over the loss of this great, great man. Now, Jesus said to people, look at John the Baptist. He's a great example of what a true servant is. I want to be and imitate a lot about him. But in Hebrews 11, we see God also telling us that our lives continue to speak long after we are gone. And he draws his own wall of fame as God. He talks about Abel. He talks about Enoch, who pleased him. He talks about Noah. He talks about Abraham. He talks about Sarah. And all of these people had one thing in common. As servants, they lived for his name's sake. That's what makes a good servant. He don't worry about himself. He's living for somebody else's namesake. And when we look at people like Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all those great saints of old, and we think, well, who are they living for? They were living for his name's sake. Now, they did stuff that was worth emulating. They did stuff that was worth putting them out there and saying, wow, look what this guy has achieved. But they would receive none of that glory themselves because they lived for his name's sake. Every one of us, folks, should be living for his name's sake. If you're living for your own, then you will surely be disappointed with life and with eternity, because yours is not worth much in many ways. We live for his name's sake. And if your life can reflect the beauty of Jesus, if your life could be looked at as amongst some people as saying, let's put him up in a picture and let's look at an example of his life, I don't think there's too much actually wrong with that, as long as that person understands and you understand that person is never going to be Jesus. He's just a good imitator of Jesus. You be a good imitator of him and you will be imitating Jesus. So let's look for people who are great examples. Let's look for people who don't actually want to be on your wall of fame anyway, because their humility wouldn't let them be there. And that's what makes them so great. But let's look for people around us. In my own experience and in our own church, I've seen a few of these guys and these ladies. I got to tell you, they're on my personal wall of fame. And I look at them and I say, man, when I get big, I want to look like that. When I get big, I want to behave like him or like her. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as they never take the place of of Jesus. We learn from them. We can imitate certain characteristics that they had. We learn from that. So let's find a few. Let's look for great people of faith. And that's what the Bible does. It puts these great people up there not on a pedestal, but it puts them in a place on the wall of fame that you look at and you say, man, I want to imitate this. That's a great thing to do. I hope you find some good ones. Cheers, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.